Buckle up for some big thinking and welcome to Marketing People Love. Today I have Rabah Rahil and we're going to be talking about moonshot marketing. That's because he has been part of some incredible SaaS brands, helping them to explode. He was part of Triple Whale when they raised $25 million and Fermat when they raised $45 million to help grow and explode those brands. When he was at Triple Whale, he helped create and put on the Whaleys. And we're going to dive into what it looks like to really think about your potential customers and your clients and give them something of value. He digs into what he learned about throwing an event, throwing an award show, what he would recommend if you're ever thinking about doing some sort of community building event for your own brand. And we talk about Fermat and his SaaS couture line. This thing took over the internet. I could not see anything else for multiple days when on X. He is the master of creating big moonshot moments, FOMO, and a sense of wanting to be part of something. He has made me a believer in moonshot marketing, this idea of putting aside 5 or 10% of your overall marketing budget to do something that can have this asymmetric return and almost a viral awareness like moment. So Rabah, let's jump into it. Rabah, not only welcome to the show, but I've never in the history of this podcast been wearing the exact same shirt as one of the guests. And it's because it's a shirt that you designed for a SaaS business. For the people that are watching, describe how good we look right now.
I mean, to be fair, your back might be hurting because you're definitely carrying the good looks over here. But what we have on is definitely a piece of art. We put a lot of time and effort into our merch lines, but this is another level of merch where we'll probably get into it later in the show with the FMRT. But this is one of the things where I would actually buy this if I saw it.
There you go.
Which is crazy to say about some B2B SaaS companies' merch.
Exactly. Okay, so I wanted to have you on because we've worked together, we have collaborated like on work, but also just in general. And every time we connect, I'm inspired by you because you're a big thinker. You're somebody that, already in the intro lined up all the things that you've done. So I'm not going to force you to brag about yourself. I'll do all the bragging. But I've just noticed over and over again, you create experiences and moments for people. And so I want to back up and ask you about your experience before the Triple Whales and the Fermats. Like, where was your dojo for learning to be different, think different in your approach?
I like that. It's really my dojo. Ooh, that's sexy. I have a really interesting upbringing. So my mom is Mexican and my dad is Algerian. And I joke, but if I had to choose any parents, I would choose my parents 100 out of 100 times. When you're young, be that sponge and really absorb all these things. I'm a voracious reader. I've read everything you can think of in terms of marketing, business biographies, things like that. And you start to synthesize these things. And I just realized that I think everybody has greatness in them. And my superpower was able to synthesize complex systems into meaningful experiences that people cared about. And I'm also just a naturally personable guy. Like the father's imprinted on the son. My dad didn't know English when he came here. So he'd literally talk to every single person he could because that's how he got reps to learn English. And so I think that molding with the kind of technical knowledge, and then it's almost like having that intersection of art and science and humanity. That is really where I shine. And that's the holy trinity in marketing, in my opinion.
Man, I will say I'm sitting here just taking this in, and a couple of reactions to your story. One is I graduated at college at the same time, 2008. So I fully track, and I think, it'll be interesting to see how those moments in time track with other things. There's an entire cohort from, I believe, Wharton Business School that all graduated into that 2008, 2009 timeframe. It's like the founder of like Dossier and the founder of like Harry's and Warby Parker. Like there's a bunch of people that all became very successful, that all graduated and thought they're going to get into investment banking in 2008, 2009, that went on to start businesses instead. And I started Raindrop in 2009 or 2009, 2010 because
Really?
because like we'll be celebrating 15 years next year because
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
man, because the
I
job that
got
I
the
thought I
erasure.
wanted, they weren't hiring, and so I started doing my own thing. It's like those closed doors in life, led to open ones. It's interesting 'cause I only know you. I only know you as the hyper successful, most connected,
Oh,
well, like, whatever version of yourself, which is great. So it's cool to hear that, like, you didn't just, like, fall into success, like, right out of the womb.
yeah, and don't get it twisted, I was not Ivy, I did not go to Penn. Shout out Rishabh, my old boss, who has a video game CV, but he's a Wharton alum as well. No, I mean, I went to a great state school, Indiana University, shout out Hoosiers, but no, I did not have any of those tailwinds. I had college debt, I had all that stuff, but I think there is a certain aspect of you do what you have to do when you have to do it, and you can take it 2 ways, man. You can say, "Oh, woe is me. I can't believe I like, I've had, like, 3 I've had COVID, I had the '08 crash, I had, what else happened? There was another big thing that I'm missing. But you just the best time to be alive is the time you're alive, and you need to just lean into the present, and you can say, "Hey, this sucks," or like, "Hey, I'm not where I wanna be right now. What can I do every day to sharpen my sword, to gain skills?" And you know what? When something really like, I worked at a nonprofit for a little while. I was miserable, man. I had this might be a little bit TMI, but my dad got cancer, my mom died, and my girlfriend got cancer all in the same month.
Oof.
Like, some heavy, heavy
Yeah.
shit, and that's not, like, trying to get sympathy, it's trying to get to people where it's like, if you get those dark moments, yes, they suck, but man, that is such an opportunity to show you how powerful you can be. And once you make it to the other side, it's so cool because you can go, hey, man, I know this sucks and maybe I'm not hitting my financial goals, but man, it wasn't that. And I know if I can make it through
Yep.
that, I
Yeah.
this is a
There's
cakewalk.
a
So
there's a
I think
Japanese, term for it. It's like the misogi. I think I'm saying it wrong. Yeah.
Kintsugi, yeah, where they the
Yeah,
goal.
usually when people do that, it's like, I'm gonna go hike a big mountain, not like I'm going to endure, like, deaths in my family and cancer. So, like, not the right, like, exact fit, but it's the same mindset, which is like, if I do hard things, I prove to myself I can do hard things, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. A and, like, the thing with the Kintsugi is beautiful where they actually celebrate brokenness. So for people that don't know, Japanese has this really cool repair culture where if something breaks and it's a really important thing, they repair the cracks with gold. And so now you have this cup that was once shattered, now unified with gold. And I think it's a really beautiful metaphor for life. I don't care who you are, man. If you're rich or poor, whatever, there's going to be some really crappy stuff that's going to happen to you. There's probably going to be some really
Yep.
good stuff that happens to you. The world is amoral. It is what it is. And you choose how to manifest and you choose how you react to the world. And it's something that it takes a lot and it sucks, and I wasn't born like this. I'm a really big stoic. So I my lean a lot on my stoic philosophy. I'm a quasi-Buddhist. That helps kind of temper me and give me compassion when I get a little bit aggressive. So I think people just need to kind of find what really lights them up, gives them a light to get through the darkness, and ultimately, again, this is kind of cheesy hippy dippy, but you're alive. You have a
Mhm.
precious human life. Like
Yep.
use it.
Yep.
Celebrate it. Make sure that you're gonna be the best person you are that day, and of course, it might not happen, but the beauty is the future only comes one day at a time. You don't have to be that person in 10 years today. You just need to take that first step, and I think that there's a really cool framing that I got. So I've been on this huge re-exploration journey after leaving Fermat. There's a great podcast called Being Well, and there was this guy on there. It was a really cool story where this guy was in his barber shop and this barber is cutting his hair and he's kind of bitching and saying, "Oh my gosh, I have all this art. Look at all this heat on the wall. Nobody wants to buy anything." And the guy goes, "Okay, how about this? How about I give you $1,000 and instead of searching for one yes, why don't you go out and find 50 no's? Go get rejected 50 times." And I think and to jump to the story, one, that psychological frame is incredible, but now this guy's a full-time artist. He's making all his money from his art, and he actually is still cutting just that one guy's hair because he's a homie. But I think it's just a beautiful way to give yourself leeway to
Yeah.
fail. Like, it outcomes don't matter,
Yeah.
purpose does, and you just need to reward effort at the beginning. Don't worry about the outcome. Effort, effort, effort. Control
I
what you
love
can
it, man.
control.
Well, this might be a bit of a hard pivot because it wasn't a failure, it was a success. I'm gonna tell a quick story that's gonna lead me up to what you're doing here. So I've lived in a town called Coronado, and I always think about this fascinating human behavior where what happened was they had the flower association, bunch of people who love flowers, and they started doing this
Yeah.
thing where they would walk around town and they would put ribbons on homes. And it was a blue ribbon for, first place on the block, red for second place, yellow for third, and then an honorable mention. Now, what was
Yeah.
so strange about it is usually with a competition, you enter it, right? In this case, they
Yeah.
just started handing out awards. And in my mind, what was crazy was over a 20-year period of time, it became something where people got so competitive that if I go to like a Walter Anderson or a Lowe's nursery, anytime in like March or
Yeah.
April, I run into 8 out of 10 people from Coronado. It's like it changed the mindset, the culture. You look at Michelin
Yeah.
Guide, it was a tire guide, right? Like crazy to sell tires, and here we are, and it's still today the defining way of assessing restaurants.
Restaurateurs. Yeah.
You and the team had an idea to start the Whaleys, and this is
Yeah.
one of those things where, like, I wasn't there, I couldn't be there. It was a top 3 FOMO moment in my life where I was like, "Man, like, everyone I know or would like to
Yeah.
know is there." Help back up the tape on, like, because I think at the time, maybe it was also announcing a $25 million raise or it was right around that time. Like, what went into the
We were doing
decision to,
well,
like,
yeah.
start an award show, to go that big? What went into that thought process? And also, I mean, what can people learn from that experience? What went well and what didn't? I mean, it's a big question, but I'm so curious because it was such a big splash.
That is incredible though about the flower stuff. That's a really cool, and the Michelin Guide is such a muse of mine. Like, what a cool idea to think outside the box. So let me put you on some game, and then you just interject whenever. So there's a really cool theory called jobs to be done about people don't hire products. They or people don't buy products. They hire them to do jobs. So that's really one of the core tenets of my kind of marketing prowess philosophy. I think it's one of the coolest ways to see the world, especially through the lens of marketing or in sales. And then furthermore, I have a framework that I build all my marketing around: content, community, and education. And then the last kind of quarter or fourth leg on the stool is what I call moonshot marketing. And so this is something that I know I'm going to bet, say, 10% or $10,000. If I lose this $10,000, it is what it is, but
I
there's
love
an
that.
asymmetric upside.
Moonshot
So if this
marketing.
bet does hit, moonshot
Hell
marketing,
yeah.
shoot for the moon. And so this is something that you can try, like if you're running the VP marketing, head of marketing, whatever, and you're behind the strategy. Normally I'll carve out 5 to 10% of my budget, depending on how big my budget is, and just do something wild, weird, and wacky. And so at Triple Whale, we had actually done multiples. So at the beginning, when the budget was really small, it was like $5,000. We bought an iPhone and we sent an iPhone to space on a weather balloon. And we did a campaign about attributions out of this world, and we literally have a triple whale on the iPhone doing that. And then we did a TV show. We did a reality TV show called D2C After Dark, where we've looked at a bunch of influencers, and it was like a Netflix style documentary. We rented out a penthouse in Austin. We had a bus wrapped. We got a yacht on Lake Travis. It was amazing. So for people, the reason I'm saying this is not to brag. It's that this was not the Whaley's was not a
Yeah, it
0
was a
to
way
1
of
thing. It
thinking.
was an
Yep,
escalation of the
yep.
moonshot marketing, and the budget just got bigger and bigger, and the users were just many and all, and it was just the brand was just rabid. When we raised, it was one of the things. I'm not a big, like, brag on myself guy or whatever. Like, I'll take my flowers, but I kinda move on. But there was one moment when I got to see the deck that I think McKinsey did diligence while we were getting fundraising. There was, like, 7 slides in the deck that this brand has a cult-like following, and it was just screenshot after screenshot of tweets. And I mean, when the Whaleys, for people that remember,
It
it took
did.
over
I just wanna
Twitter.
say the
I mean, it
FOMO,
was the
you're sitting at home and
coolest.
you're like, "Who's
Anybody that
not
was
there?" Yeah.
anybody
Well, the answer is
who's not, it
me.
was
I wasn't
so
there.
cool. I did it. I'm gonna get those receipts. I swear I'm inviting. I've been a fan of yours forever. Anyways, and so we get to the Whaleys, and then I had a really cracked team. I One of my strengths is hiring. I
Well, and for
vibe
those
check
at
really
home
well.
that don't know
I
the
pluck.
term cracked, in case my mom's listening, that's a positive thing. It means they're strong. Yeah.
I love Miss Spitzer.
Yeah.
Mama Spitzer, we love you. And so I was like, all right, guys, we need to do something really wacky and crazy, but we needed to build it around this. We had a gorgeous Austin office. We had just pulled off a couple really great events in Creative Palooza and some other things. And they were like, you know what would be really cool? Why don't we throw an awards show? There's the Oscars, there's the Webbies, why don't we throw a D2C awards show and make it the event of the year? And then that just went from, okay, that's a really interesting idea. And then, you know what? Let's call it the Whaleys. Okay, that's really interesting. And shout out to AJ and Max because they just wanted to build product and they're like, Robert, just keep the rocket ship going. Whatever you need, how much money, like, yes, fine. That's cool. Let's do it. And then they get to come in and do all this stuff. So they got to come in and give awards out. And it ended up being, in my opinion, the best D2C event still to this day. And the craziest part was there was a huge Austin has perfect weather, but sometimes in February, you'll just catch a stray, and there was a huge ice storm, and the power was out. I actually had to stay in a hotel because the power lines what happens is the trees freeze and the power lines break, but we had a Telegram group, and I'm telling you, it was like a festival fever. People were flying into Houston. They were
Wow.
flying into Dallas. They're like, "Rob, I'm not gonna miss this." They were gonna drive down, and it was exquisite. And the fundamentals, so that's like the fun, interesting, "Hey, this is cool" stories, but what you take to the boss is the fundamentals are we're gonna build a community, and we're gonna get to celebrate a bunch of our brands, and, you get to not like you're gonna put the thumb on the scale to, like, make sure X, Y, or Z person wins, but at the end of the day, you kind of like you get the people on stage that you want on stage, and then when you're doing an event, it's really important if you wanna maximize a big spend like that. There's 3 phases of the event. There's the pre. We crushed the pre. The pre was just exquisite. There was the during. Destroyed the during. We were live streaming it. We were doing the whole thing. Everybody there was having a magnificent time, texting their friends how crazy it was. The awards we had were it's right back
Grab
there
one,
actually if you're
grab it
watching.
quick, real quick.
They're exquisite.
There it is.
This branding was some of the best branding. We had a great guy in it, shout out Kristen, that he was an exquisite brander, and I basically said, "Hey, man, remember '90s MTV when the world was great? Go do that." And so the branding landed. We had an incredible merch package with a bunch of swag bags at a bunch of really cool brands, and then we had a black tie gala on the second night, and one of the merch was actually a tuxedo T-shirt. Because that's the other thing when you're having this event, you wanna make sure that people feel exclusive but included. And people when you're throwing events in D2C, the biggest unlock that I found is they're the hardest working humans on the planet, and they will not take a vacation. So if you can front load the day with education and then have, like, a party and people can socialize and network and stuff, it absolutely goes, and so, yeah, the Too Long Didn't Read, the Whaley's is still running to this day. If you're gonna throw an event, make sure you really concentrate on the pre, the during, and the post phases of the event and build it with authenticity and love and send it. And the last thing I'll say too is, like, when you're creating a marketing budget as a marketing leader, if all of your marketing spend hits, that is a failure to me. I wanted at least 10 to 20% of my marketing budget to miss because that way I knew I had enough risk in the system. Because if not, if you don't have that risk in the system, you're not going to get the ultimate alpha. You're going to leave a lot of
Man,
money on the
okay.
table.
I'm like, you're like, interrupt me when I'm like, I can't because there's too much good stuff happening in here. I will say I have like 3 or 4 reactions that like really hit me. One was you were mentioning, hey, our target audience, people who own companies and or run
Yeah.
advertising for these companies.
Yes.
They value, yes, they value a good time, but they also value connections, information, and the
Yep.
Whaleys, from what you were describing, was an access point to all 3 of those. But if it had just been a party, people don't show, right?
Wouldn't
And
work.
and
You're
and I
correct.
think that that's something that I've noticed because with the the roles I've seen you in, it is business to business marketing and advertising, but it's highly relational, and the decision makers are even smaller within that group, right? It's a
Yeah.
very specific audience, and so you're tapping into what matters, to them, for them. I think my only follow-up question to that is, what do you think matters in an event environment like that? What do you think matters most to people? And what do you think matters much, much less and people might overvalue or get wrong when it comes to something like that?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question, and, there's a Buddhist ideal called the middle path where when you ever get on the extreme, so I'm gonna give a
Yeah.
"it depends" answer. When you're creating things like this, always start with the goal in mind. Our number one goal, our job to be done of the Whaleys was to be omnipresent. Wasn't to throw a great event. It was, and so that's why I was very concentrated on the 3 phases of, if I'm gonna spend this much money, I really need to be top of mind for a month and a half. We had people just begging us for invites because that's the one thing when you're throwing events, and shout out to Lex if she's listening. She's the best event organizer, but it's almost like a microcosm of a startup founder where there is just unfettered
Yeah.
bliss or existential dread where, "Oh my gosh, this event's gonna come off," or like, "Oh my gosh, it's not. We oversold it or undersold it." And there's never like, "Oh, hey, we had the perfect amount of people sign
Yep.
up. We're gonna have a blast." It just doesn't work. And then you throw an ice storm in there, which never happens in Austin. It's like a 100-year fluke. So always starting the goal in mind when you're throwing your event. Events are hard, they're expensive, but people need to know you, like you, trust you, transact with you. And in person is the only way to do all three of those things. It doesn't scale, but do things that don't scale. So with that being said, I think the ultimate thing is when I have a goal, I will back into what matters to this. And so the Whaleys needed to be a meshing of both. Because if it was just an education event, it's flat, it's flaccid. It's also a 2-day event. So you
Right.
need to have reasons for people to come. So that's why we bookmarked it with the
Mm.
awards at the end. People love to brag on themselves. People love to brag on themselves. Furthermore, going back to that 3-phase process, we
Yep.
had a nominations process, which is even
Pre-build-up.
better because it's
Yep.
like, "Hey, Rabah, will you nominate me? Jacques, will you nominate me? We really wanna win this Whaley. Amazing." So now you're building your own advertising network within networks. Okay, amazing. And then from that, okay, cool. Do we wanna throw a party? What kind of party? So we actually rented out one of the nicest, barbecue joints in the city. Really cool moment for me where I was going to this place and it's really bougie, and we walk in and it was closed for a private party. It was my private party. Incredible. And that's really awesome. The one thing I will say is if you're gonna do a 2-day event, throw the proper rager on the second night because if people go too hard on the first night, the
They're
event will not go
just
well on the first
Yep.
day because everybody's hungover, they won't come. So, like, be very cognizant of the big ragers should be at the end. And then from that, we knew people wanted connection. We were building this just gorgeous community. I mean, we had a Slack community of 10,000 people called Narwhal Nation. And the coolest part about that Slack community is 55% of the communications were actually DMs. Like
Mm.
the inmates were running the asylum. The people were just talking to people. It was amazing. So, anyways, to land this plane, the answer to your question is start with the goal in mind. It matters. Because sometimes it's okay to just do an education-only event. Like Jacques, for example, for you guys, if you wanted to do, "Hey, do you wanna learn how to make and script and do this, like, all this awesomeness that we do in a day? Come."
Yeah,
And that's gonna
we've
be
done that
fine
multiple times
because
a
the
year
goal
with Google and everything else. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
bingo, so you get it, right? Like, that's gonna be fine, and so it really matters contextually, start with the goal in mind and then figure out what's the balance of social to networking to education to workshops, and then so that's what we had a really nice mix of education where there's kind of the lecture stage stuff, we had some fireside, panels, we had some workshopping, and then the only other thing that I'll add because 'cause I'm kinda rambling here, is build in gaps. Do not stack the schedule. So we had everything end at 4, and then after that, the next thing didn't start till 7. And so it gave people time that you can either go to the hotel, you can take a blow, you can go do, coffee or something with people that you just met there, but there's a gap there where if you're constantly doing things, it stresses people out, and sometimes people shaking hands, kissing babies is a lot, and sometimes people
Yeah.
just need to go charge their
Yeah.
social
That's how I
battery and go
feel.
back to their hotel room so
I
they can
always
show
I
up
always
for the
go into
next
those
thing.
I go to those
And
events.
I'm the
I'm the
same.
extrovert. I go in thinking I'm just gonna go, juice the most out of the experience, and before you know, you're like, "Dang, I need a break." I need a break. I need to check some emails. So makes a ton of sense. Okay,
Exactly right.
now we
Yep.
are sitting here wearing,
Yeah.
swag that doesn't even have like a logo on it, right? Like this is, and you guys, when you started with Fermat, I don't know how long you'd been there before you guys did your first merch drop. About a year.
Why don't we say this? About a
I
year.
mean,
I was there about a
you
year
know,
before their first
the
FMRT.
I remember just to your point, and I think that's why, going into this conversation, I so remember the Whaleys and I so remember the first drop of the Fermat swag because again, it took
Yeah.
over for a day or two, it took over the conversation, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I describe it for people listening that, what you all have done in the past is you came out with a line of products, and I'll let you describe what they are because I will butcher it. But it is
Okay.
it is they are items that people would tend to pay hundreds of dollars for in quote unquote real life. They
Yeah.
are couture products. They
Yeah.
are, so often you are given swag and company swag and it's built for the masses and it's cheap and
Ooh.
it's tchotchke and it's another pen or whatever, right? Like it just is. And this was one of the first times truly I had seen someone totally flip it and say, "No, this is," and since then, I've seen a couple other people do it. I sent you a link to Built. They're a credit card customer award where,
Yeah.
you can buy
Very
a
nice.
$150 polo shirt from them using their credit card points.
Yeah.
But this idea of companies putting out something that is actually desirable, something that people have FOMO over, and FOMO seems to be this like interesting thing that maybe you're aware of and know how to play with, but what went
It's a hell of
into
a drug.
developing, let's isolate maybe the first line of Fermat, and then by the time this comes out,
Yeah.
the second one will likely be coming out. So the help me
Mhm.
understand what
Yeah.
went into that, the reactions to it, and then, obviously what led to a second drop here. So, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the great setup. Yeah, so again, going back to the goal in mind, I plan everything a quarter is when I'm running the marketing department, and every quarter I try and like do, like I said, that moonshot marketing. And again, this is kind of peeking behind the curtain, don't meet your heroes kind of stuff. So if you think I'm really cool, mute this part because I'm going to get really nerdy and boring. But we started with the goal in mind. One of the challenges that we had at Fermat when I was there was we had a lot of really big brands. And when you have a lot of really big brands, they kind of tend to subscribe to the Andy Grove, only the paranoid survive. So you can't show any of their things. And the other challenge with Fermat is it's a show me product, not a tell me product. If I explain to you the product, your eyes will glaze over and you're like, what the F are you talking about, Rob? I have no versus like, oh, hey, Jacques, check this out. Look at what you're like, oh, that's your guys' product. Amazing. So with these two things trying to solve that problem, and hey, how do we do that? And I was like, you know what would be really cool? I know a really shout out OJ. Oren is just he's the man, really good friend, but also just super talented sorcerer designer kind of thing. I was like, Oren, hear me out. What if we designed a SaaS couture line for Fermat? And he's like,
And where did you
I'm
find
in.
this
And I
guy?
was like,
Who
okay,
like
if he's in,
no!
oh, you don't Orange John? I gotta connect you. He's out he's the Orange County Cartel. He's out there. He's awesome. He's wonderful. I knew him through the Triple Whale days, and then when he used to be a CMO for a company out here in Austin, so when he'd come out, we would jam back and forth, and he we did a podcast together, and he was one of those guys, kinda like you, where I was just like, "Man, I fuck with this guy's vibe. Like, this guy gets it." I don't know what I'm gonna do with him, but I'm gonna keep him close because, like, when you rub up against talented people that you vibe with, send them a text every now and then. Check in, like, just water that grass, man, because those people are very rare. And after that, I locked him in, and then I took our VP of finance was super cool. She was like, "Rabah, go for her." I texted Rishabh. He was like, "Why have you not asked me for this soon?" Like everybody was on board. So a little caveat here. If you're crazy like me, you need to be really careful who you roll up to, where if you don't have like a Mike Cesario, which he's kind of lost it a little bit on the of recent, but like pre crazy podcast stuff, Mike Cesario, you need a boss that is on board, and you also need to learn how to manage up. I didn't go say, "Hey, we're gonna go make these really crazy clothes and spend an F ton of money on them, and then get some stuff." No, 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 no. I said, "Hey, here are the problems that we have. I need to show these people the product, and I can't because all the big brands that are paying us a F ton of money don't want us to show them," which is very, very valid. Like, I'm not dogging all those brands. I totally get it. But how do I solve this problem? And I was like, dude, well, you know what? We're French. What do the French do? They do architecture, food, and fashion really, really well. Okay, cool. This works out. And then, oh, well, you know what used to be in vogue? I'm old. Take the vowels out. Okay, cool. So instead of Fermat, we just take the E and the A out. Oh, cool. Now we have FMRT. All right, who can do it for me? Oh, Oren John, one of my fucking really good buddies who's literally the best at this. Amazing. And so it all started to coalesce together. And then, yeah, the rest is history. I mean, Perplexity, there was all these other people that did stuff that Risha, because we're headquartered, or Firmout's headquartered in SF, they would get texts from like companies that have raised hundreds and
It
hundreds of
was
millions of
incredible.
dollars. Like, this is incredible, man. So when you're doing something like that, you want it to seem like a cool, crazy idea, but it
Yeah.
needs to be rooted in business impact. Everybody calls me the brand guy, and I am because I'm very good at that, but I'm not just going willy-nilly lighting $100 bills on fire. There is a method to the madness. You need to understand why you're spending this money, what the business impact is going to drive. And our goal was we needed a brand to show off what our product does to people. And so we even had a launch party here in Austin, Texas. It was incredible. We had QR codes where you could scan it and actually pre-order and buy the things. We had a whole influencer strategy where people
Right.
forget marketing is distribution, and ads are just one way to gain distribution. You just give some platform money and you get these very flaccid kind of, "Hey, I'm gonna show you an ad." Nothing wrong with it, but it's way better to be able to like, "Hey, I know every important person and I'm gonna send them a
Yep.
gift. I'm gonna send
And
them a
it
package and
definitely
they're gonna
it
post about it."
the thing
We
it
sent all our
definitely
investors.
accomplished was again, for a moment in time, everyone was like, "What is Fermat?" Like, no one's talking about B2B SaaS. And most of the time too, the dynamic is flipped because you're sending people expensive, nice gifts that people would be bummed that they didn't get, right? And it's like, it reminds me
Yes.
a lot. It's the same principle. I keep like the same principle that the whole like putting ribbons on people's doors. It's like, well, I didn't necessarily
Yes.
want this thing, but the fact that I didn't get it makes me want to reach. Yeah, it's all the cool
And
kids have.
all
It's
the
like the
cool kids
strangest
have it.
dynamic. And the thing I have to ask you is, you talked about sourcing. I think that was the thing I walked away from with both of these drops was, if I wanted to start a actual luxury couture clothing brand, like you guys did it at that level. It was like you started, I don't wanna say you
We
started a second company, but you could have. And so I'm like, how in the world did you guys have quality control enough to actually pull that off? I don't understand. My brain can't understand how you did that.
I have exquisite taste. I'm actually a very nice guy, but I'm an iron fist and a silk glove where, like, if shit needs to get real, it'll get real. And I only work with killers. And Oren is an absolute killer. Clayton is an absolute killer. And you just need to give them enough on the bone. Like, for example, the banker bag that we did, we sold 3 of them at $350. That's like that's the power of brand. When it was at Triple Whale, there was a guy that I remember him, he was so cool, and he loved the brand so much. We launched something called FinHub, it's now defunct, but he was like, "I'm buying this, not because I need it, but I just wanna be part of the brand, and I buy everything you guys launch." And so when everybody's like, "Brand's not a job, blah, blah, blah," you're missing the point. The point is when you can connect with somebody, when you can make them feel good, when you can make their day better, when you can help them get promoted, when you can say, "Hey, I don't want anything from you. All I want is to make you better. And if you want to give anything back, that's fine. If you don't, but just being a good person goes so far with people. And that's what we did. We just built a really cool thing that you could connect with. And yeah, did we do it at a high level? Yes. Did we spend a lot of money? Yes. Did we make a lot of money from it? Yes. But at the end of the day, you need to start with the goal in mind, and you need to be authentic and you need to be sincere. People, no matter their intelligence level, have a really high bullshit detector, and you do not want to be the person that's insincere. That is a death knell. And so we just did something that was really fun. And I'll tell you what, man, you will always lose to the person that's
Mm.
having fun.
Okay. So, final question. Final question. One of my favorite feelings when I do any of these podcasts is I feel like, yeah, I could call myself the host of this, but really, I am taking in everything that I selfishly wanted to know about these things. I want to put you know, a moonshot marketing thing into play for Raindrop, next year. In fact, I'm trying to
Yeah.
even think if we have ever really done that. I think one of the things I realize is we've definitely invested in ourselves and done some things, but not truly to that extent where I can look back and say I was taking an asymmetric bet, and it was a little bit like it was bold, and it could not work, but if it does, wow. My final question to you is if someone is taking inventory, they've listened to this, they're all excited, like they're taking inventory. I know there's a lot of like every business is different, but if they're sitting there wondering about the should I, can I invest in this moonshot marketing?
Mhm.
You've obviously done it multiple times successfully. What would your advice be back to them? What would you say to someone who's like, man, they are at that last inch line? You are literally at this moment selling up the chain, as you said. What is it that
Yeah.
gets you excited about making that leap of faith with people?
I mean, again, it's gonna go back to pause because 'cause I'm gonna sound boring and not cool the cool kid anymore. You need to have your shit together, man. The moonshot marketing was not again, your marketing ecosystem needs to exist without it. That's why I say it's
Mm,
kind of like a fourth leg on the stool that's optional. So our community content education was ripping. Our inbound was through the moon. Like we were in a really good place. The other thing is we had a lot of effing money. And it's actually really hard as a CMO to spend a lot of money than not spend a lot of money. It sounds like a bit paradoxical. I mean, there is a certain aspect of like, hey, here's $50,000 a quarter. It's like, dude, why I'm a cannon to kill a mosquito. Like, what am I going to do with this? But like, if you have, called $1 million, $2 million, it's a lot of work to put into, like, I think the job of a CMO is twofold: get momentum or keep momentum if you have it, and deploy capital effectively and efficiently. So, with all those caveats out of the way and saying, okay, it's like, for example, Jacques, let's use Raindrop. You guys have your shit together. Your inbound engine is cranking. Your marketing department is in a really good place. You have all your core campaigns around content, community education budgeted out. You have the other thing is people don't realize like you need somebody to run this. It's not free. Like I had the money that I could pay the people to do all the stuff, but I was still very deeply involved in the process in terms of going back and forth. Oren was sending me test things. He was literally in China, like, "Hey, do you like this, Robert? Do you like that, Robert?" So this isn't like you put a envelope under the door and Oren sends you back. Like this was a very intense process. So don't get it twisted. Like money can solve a lot of problems, but it doesn't buy you more time back. With all those caveats being said, let's go through without exercise. So I think I don't think I love you and I love what Raindrop does. You want a moonshot marketing idea? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a coffee table book of every single one of call it your top 50 brands. And we're going to make a hardcover 100 edition. And on the cover of it is going to be, when you have all the
yeah.
little pictures, but it makes one mosaic, that's going to be the cover. And it's going to be Raindrop, but it's going to be all the brands that you've worked with. That's going to be the cover. The next thing we're going to do on the brand pages, we're going to do like a Tassin or Aceline, a Tashin style, like absolute coffee table book where we're going to do brand profiles on that. We're going to have QR codes to the actual Raindrop video that you've done. And then we're going to send or do it fancy professional, but we're going to send everybody an iPhone so there can actually be a personalized message from the founder of that brand with a QR code on there. And then we'll make some sort of maybe golden raindrop or something. And then there will be an actual take home thing, but then there will actually be like a memorabilia that commemorates these people, almost like the Shopify bag or something like that. You can have different color raindrops. You can have a droplet, a rainstorm, and a lightning bolt. And this signifies how long you've worked together, or something like that. When you're doing things like this, you want to make people feel special. You want to make them feel exclusive, and you want to give them something to brag about without feeling like they're bragging. Where it's like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, by the way, let me just flip to the page. Oh, hey, Rabah, isn't that your brand? Oh, me? That's my brand? You want to give them those things. And so that's how I would go through that thought process with the brand is like, okay, cool. What are the assets that we have? We have all these incredible videos. Okay, how can we memorialize that? Let's make a beautiful book. And then the next thing, if you really want to get high level, is seasonality. So if I were you, I would do it right after Christmas or early November, where you can have that drop, or you can start to weave it into maybe a Valentine's Day vibe or something. But it's much easier to ride waves, natural waves that already
Oh,
happen on a
wow.
calendar
Come on,
than
let
start
him
your own
cook.
wave.
Let him cook. What's crazy is I know
Let it
that you were we witnessed it here, like an idea machine, a machine. This is that was,
Oh, thank you.
you know what I felt
Thank
like
you.
listening to you talk about that was if you've ever been at an event and you see someone painting something, they're painting it all fast and like they're like splashing stuff, and then they turn it upside, like they turn the whole thing, like it's upside down. They turn the whole thing right side up, and it's like a beautiful painting. And you're just like, you just painted. I can't paint right side up to begin with. You just paint it upside
Yeah.
down. Like, oh my gosh, amazing, Brava. Robin, thank you. Thank you for your big dots and
Very
your big
kind words.
energy. All right, that's all we have for you today. This has been another episode of Marketing People Love. And if you enjoy learning from experts just as much as I do, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode.